Hey there, how's it going? Today's video is an introduction to the city of Sharn, the one true metropolis on the world of Eberron, the city of towers that is practically a nation unto itself. Even if you don't set your campaign in the city, assuming you're playing an Eberron campaign, you'll probably visit at some point, or at least need to learn about it in some way. I just wanted to touch upon what the city is about, and maybe a little bit about its history and people. It's far too complex a topic to completely cover in a single video. Before we continue, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and bell buttons so you can get future content. If I can get to the point where this channel becomes monetized, I'd love to focus on it and release videos at a greater frequency. Help a fellow geek out, maybe share this with your friends, or enemies, next door neighbors, mail carrier, dog walker. You get the point. Also, Patreon members now have access to a super secret section of my Discord where I regularly upload maps and other content for RPGs. Some of the maps even have VTT file versions in them with walls and lighting for your favorite virtual tabletops. Alright, enough about me plugging shit. Let's continue about Sharn, shall we? I've briefly touched upon the history of Sharn in my two-part video, History of the Modern Age, but let's delve into it again. The city of Sharn has been many things over time and dates back thousands of years, the ancient eras of the world far before humanity ever showed up on the continent. On this spot, the Dakani Empire created a city of their own that was carved into the massive cliffs, the city of Jasharat. The city at the time was more subterranean than anything else, with the great tunnels spreading throughout the area. Eventually, great brutalistic monolithic style buildings were erected. They were built on the plateau above the Dagger River, buildings that would later serve as the foundation for many of the modern buildings in Sharn we see today. During the war with the Dale Kier, the Dakani Empire was brutalized and the city of Jasharat was almost completely emptied, sitting as a shell of what it once was. Thousands of years go by. Aside from some local threats that use the skeleton of the city as a lair and random adventurers exploring the cavernous ruins for leftover treasures from the Dakani, it sat relatively unknown. That's when the virulent plague known as humankind found it. Malian the Reaver, the most feared pirate, war captain, and explorer of his time, came upon the ruins of Sharn while exploring the continent. He used the crew from his warships to clear the remaining threats from the dungeon ruins of Jasharat, sealed off the lower tunnels of foundations, and then built a great fortress and probably a McDonald's. Learning of the ancient history of the city by the barbaric descendants of the once great goblins, Malian named this new fortress location Sharat. He grew the fortress into a city that would prosper on its own for almost 600 years. Rhaegor, first king, during his wave of conquest in the area, took hold of the city and renamed Sharat into Sharn because, it's just easier to say, and maybe he wasn't really a wordy guy. Over hundreds of years, Sharn kept developing. Towers rose and the city grew into a true metropolis, the hub of trade and power, like it is today. During the War of the Mark, with the rise of the dragon-marked households, Tarkanan took control of the city from the council at the time and turned it into his home. However, controlling such a city for long is no easy task. He began to lose his iron grip, so he used his terrifying powers to destroy a good chunk of the city. So devastating was this blow that the city remained in partial ruins for nearly half a millennia. However, when King Galifar I took control of the Five Nations and unified much of the continent of Corvair, he decided he could rebuild Sharn. When the last war began, the city largely stayed out of the conflict. The populace felt that Sharn was almost its own micronation and had little stake in the war. That was until the terrorist attack that destroyed the Crystal Tower and shook the core of the city. Something the populace are still emotionally reeling from today. A nation not wanting to enter a great multi-nation war until they started getting picked on themselves? It doesn't sound very realistic. The city of Sharn, also known as the City of Towers, the City of Knives, the City of Lost Souls, the City of a Thousand Eyes, the City of Too Many Starbucks, the City of Discount Cargo Shorts, the Gateway to Zendrick, and the Gateway to Perdition, is a metropolis in the southern region of Breland. The city itself towers above the Dagger River atop a giant cliff. Because of the limited space of the plateau, the city is unable to expand out and can only expand up. As a result, massive towers, each big enough to house their own cities, have grown over time. There are even buildings of magic that float above the city for the ultra-rich and powerful. The city rests upon the layered ruins of multiple older cities, which rest upon caverns and things that are even stranger. As massive as Sharn is, much of that is vertically rather than horizontally. Through advanced building techniques, magic, and a little bit of insanity, somehow the great city just rises and rises. The city has sort of evolved over time, but as it has done so, it splits itself into organizational categories. The biggest of these categories are the large regions known as the plateaus. These are named the Central Plateau, the Memphis Plateau, North Edge, Dura, Tavik's Landing, the City of the Dead, and Cliffside. The plateaus of the city are also split into wards based on their vertical height. From highest to lowest are the Skyway, Upper City, Middle City, Lower City, the Depths, and the Cogs. There are things even further below the city, but I won't touch upon that quite yet. All you need to know is generally the lower you go, the less wealth the inhabitants have. The population of Sharn numbers at least in the hundreds of thousands, if not greater. Because of the nature of trade and free chances for immigration, Sharn is one of the most culturally diverse places on the planet. Spread throughout the city are microcosms of specific races, cultures, religions, Pokemon gym colors, etc. The city itself sports numerous festivals and holidays. One of the newest to be introduced is the holiday of Crystalfall, a happy little celebration to remember the horrifying terrorist attack that led to the fall of the Glass Tower in 918 YK. Although some would say with such a mismatched quilt of cultures that Sharn has no culture of its own, I disagree. I think the mosaic of viewpoints mixed with local families that trace ancestors back numerous generations, and you have a unique sort of place that could be found nowhere else on Eberron. It's more common for people to speak numerous languages, know the ins and outs of what is normally exotic cultures, and even for the uneducated to have a greater amount of world knowledge than people of other areas. The culture of Sharn is diversity. The culture of Sharn is cohabitation. It's the big city, and people are frankly too busy trying to survive and thrive to care about who or what you are. It's a mixture between Blade Runner and fantasy New York. Stating specifically how the power structure of Sharn works is difficult. As with any city of this size, although there is technically a Lord Mayor that acts as de facto leader of the city, it's the City Council who appoints that mayor, thus giving them power. And members of the City Council are part of or influenced by numerous unions, guilds, gangs, families, religions, etc. Trying to firmly cut through red tape and figure out who controls what is a nightmare at best. The City Council also officially controls law enforcement of the Sharn Watch. However, it's not uncommon to hear of sub-factions in the Watch, corrupt guards in people's pockets, etc. The Council of Sharn is officially made up of one representative for each ward in the city, although even that's messy since Dura and Cliffside are merged into one. There's only one council member for Ashblack and Blackbones. There are currently 17 council members. That are the main force of power in the city. The council makes all the important decisions: laws, taxes, appointing important positions, and taking frivolous and dangerous vacations during terrible plagues. Although the council is the real power in the city, the Lord Mayor isn't just a figurehead. They still have considerable power and influence, as that figurehead is the only direct line of communication with the Crown of Breland. Delving further into confusing power structure of the city are the other movers and shakers. These are the various religious orders, the 60 families of Sharn, which are the top most influential families in the city, dragon-marked houses, the guilds, and other organizations like criminal syndicates and gangs. Alright, and I think we're going to keep this one here. I wanted this as more of an introduction to the city, just getting a couple of the baselines going. With future videos, we're going to start delving into this topic a lot more. Sharn is definitely a keystone place within the Eberron campaign, and I definitely think it's something that we're going to have to spend quite a bit of time on. So, expect future Sharn videos to happen. And as always, stay healthy, stay safe, have a good one, eh?